Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to Spiritual Discoveries with Angie and friends. I welcome you today. My name is Reverend Angie Abt, and with me today is good friend, teacher. I've known him, I think, for over 20 years, a long time. Tom Cratsley. Hi, Tom.
Hi.
Welcome. It's good to have you here.
Yeah, it's good to be here with you.
Yeah, we have lots of good things. All right, everybody, give me a second because I want to see your comments. So I have to change something here on my iPad so I can do that. And we love to have you come on, and we love to read your comments. We welcome questions. Here we go. Hi, Helen, or Helene. I'm sorry. Good morning. Let us know where you're from too. So welcome. So we'll talk for a couple minutes and we'll give people a chance to get on, Tom. I know I'm pretty excited about Lilydale's going to be here. Season opening is going to be here before we know it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And the Tibetan monks are back for the opening of the season.
yeah, which is really exciting. They haven't been there in 2 or maybe even 3 years,
Well,
right?
since COVID, yeah.
Yeah.
Since before COVID, yeah.
Yeah, everybody for sure. Like, get down to Lilydale for opening week and see the Tibetan monks. It's an amazing experience. And so many good things happening in Lilydale this summer. So many workshops, daily events, so many things. You don't want to miss it. Make sure you mark it on your calendar. I think opening days, I should know that. I think it's right around June 25th.
Yeah,
Yeah.
somewhere around there.
Yeah. So we have hi Elise, good morning, and Joseph Heron. Tom is a wonderful teacher and neighbor. So all right. So if you're just coming on, good morning, Judith. Thank you for joining us. So if you're just coming on again, welcome to Spiritual Discoveries with Angie and friends. My name is Reverend Angie Abt. I'm a registered Lilydale medium, and with me is Tom Cratsley, who is a Lilydale resident. He is part of Fellowships of the Spirit. He is probably one of the most amazing energy healers I've ever experienced a healing from ever. And it's an honor to have you here today, Tom.
Well, thank you.
So Tom and I have had some pretty interesting discussions as of late. And I really wanted to have Tom on. He's got some awesome workshops coming up that I want to tell you about, but I want him to talk to you about some of the discussions we had. And Tom, the other day we were talking about healing, remember? And we were saying how true healing needs to come from within, and then the things that each one of us can do to affect things and change things in the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think ultimately, one of the things I say so many times in my classes is ultimately my belief is that all healing is self-healing, right?
Yes.
That even though we accept agencies outside ourselves to support us, whether it's medical professionals, whether it's spiritual healers or whatever, ultimately the important elements that promote healing have to come from within in some way, shape, or form. And
Yeah.
that means that the person at some point makes decisions that kind of help them realign with their spiritual truth.
Okay.
And in that realignment, healing automatically happens. I am a firm believer in ever-present healing power of the universe, and that it's always attempting, that there's a force in the universe that's always attempting to bring balance and harmony to everything in existence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom, I'm getting goosebumps while you're saying that. I mean, I 100% believe that. Go ahead, keep going.
And that I've come to accept that is really an important feature of the law of evolution. Now, evolution, from my perspective, from a spiritual perspective,
Right.
is not accidental. It's always purposeful.
Okay.
That is, there's always some kind of higher purpose to change direction for a an expanse. Let's call it an expansive reason.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So often when we're forced to change direction, our consciousness expands,
Yes.
to be open to something else, to
Yes.
something new.
Yeah.
And that to me is the fundamental force of healing.
100%. And then do you think sometimes it's almost like we're kind of being forced in a different direction, and then maybe we're afraid to go in it, or we're not ready,
Absolutely.
so we
Yeah.
stay stuck?
Yeah. Yeah. We're up. And that's what happens. We do get stuck. We get fixated. We get fixated on the old
Yeah.
when the new is ready to emerge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yes.
And that fixation holds us back.
Yes. I mean, I've been there myself because we get
Yeah.
so comfortable with where we are. And even if it isn't, say, for our highest and best, it's hard to make a change, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And to me, the whole thing is it's like um I like simplicity. I think that that although there's a great deal of complexity in the world around us, there also at the base of it all is simplicity.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And can you talk, like, give some examples then too of like what that means? Like, how can people do that? Like that going within to heal themselves, but also to help heal our world too.
Well, yeah. Well, the process is, strikingly simple, although not always easy to replicate, right? And the simple part is just letting go of your focus on externals and going internal and just being quiet and being open to inspiration. That's not
Hmm.
easy. It's
No,
simple, but not easy.
no.
And people spend their whole lifetimes learning how to get into those what I call magical open states,
Yes.
because
Yes.
at that point, if you're in a magical open state, all things are possible.
Yeah. Oh, I think so too.
Mm.
So you're kind of saying, so go within to that quiet space. So that would be meditation.
Yes, and
Yeah.
there are so many forms of that, and some people do it without even knowing that they're meditating,
Okay. Okay.
right? So it's like a lot of the things that we're taught were natural. At one time they were just natural expressions of the human condition, and then people learned how to formulate it and put it into form. And that's how we get all the different classes and the different styles, if you will. you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
Everybody's got their own style. Like in the Orient especially, there's like hundreds, thousands of schools of qigong, but they
Yeah.
come from an individual who's taken their time to actually master a process. And so not only do you get the mastery of the process to some degree, but you also get the personal proclivities of that individual who's mastered it in his way.
Yeah, true, true. But
Right.
they've kind of done that, like, oh, yeah, that's true. And well, they try. You're right. They take a. It's a natural thing. This is what I'm hearing you say. Like like meditation is a natural thing, or qigong even is to that state, and then it's kind of broken down so that we can understand how to do it better.
Yeah.
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 Okay. But it's
Yeah.
but it's but so what would be the easiest way, do you think, like, say, for somebody that's watching, if they want to get into meditation, because people say all the time they can't do it. So it's a
Well, in the
natural
West,
thing to do.
the difficult thing in the West is people don't know how to turn their energy over to their bodies. It's like, we're really not clearly connected to our bodies significantly in the West. We're head centered,
Yeah.
and we have this you know, there are what I would call large scale belief systems that some people don't even know that they're holding on to.
Yeah.
And in the West, there's this notion that two things, that as human beings, we're superior to everything else physical, right?
Hmm.
Uh, and there's also this sense, and this has come down from eons of time, that the physical is less than the spiritual, or that it's somehow not, and sometimes it's even thought of as evil,
Yeah.
so that there's this resistance to being fully present with our physical nature that
Yeah.
needs to be overcome.
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
two reasons, not just for our personal growth, but for the welfare of the planet.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because that's what's created um our proclivity, if you will, for trashing the earth.
Yeah, yeah, and
You
we
know,
we 100% have to get back, not do that. So you're saying, so we need to be connected to our spiritual and our physical,
yeah.
not one or the other.
Because the real truth is, they're not really separate. They need to be integrated. They're in our consciousness. If they're integrated in our consciousness, then what happens is that we start to live really kind of in a magical realm, because at that point, when it's integrated in your consciousness, you understand that everything in existence is um is directly connected to the divine.
Yeah, yeah.
The chair you're sitting on, for gosh sakes, is, all everything, then when you understand that, then all of your reality is magical. You don't have to escape your physical body to have a spiritual experience.
You can really have a spiritual
Yes.
experience every single day while being in physical body, and the things you learn while being in your physical body too.
And I think fundamentally, most people have some kind of experience of this just from nature, from having wonderful experiences in nature. There's a kind of magic that takes place. You don't understand it thoroughly, but you know something else is happening in your experience that you don't experience anywhere else.
It's true. It's true.
You know,
Yeah, that's so true. Like when I want to get centered, and I, I'm in a place that I just can't get my thoughts together, feel centered, what have you. I go for a walk in nature, and I start looking at the trees, or I look at the flowers, or I look at the water.
yeah.
And you're absolutely right. It completely changes my consciousness. It centers me, and it reconnects me to the magic. That's true.
Now there's another, simple tip, and that has to do with breathing. Breathing is fundamental, and what happens is, and I believe that the diaphragm is a much more important, muscle, almost organ, that, because what happens is, every time that we have trauma in our lives, the diaphragm records it, and when the diaphragm records it, it distorts our natural breathing rhythms.
Okay. Okay.
So to overcome that, there are practices. You practice, taking deep breaths and being comfortable with taking deep breaths. That helps you um, orient yourself physically to being in a relaxed state of consciousness, so that you can be open to other inspiration.
Yes. So all of a sudden I heard like an echo. I don't know why. Okay, I don't know if you heard that. Okay, so it's kind of like if you go within and you get quiet, that then you're gonna open yourself up to inspiration. So what you're saying with that is connecting to the divine, or connecting to spirit, or connecting to
Yeah,
where that magic is.
yeah. And also, there's something that everybody carries with them, and I call it the blueprint for their well-being.
Okay.
We all have that in our makeup, and I don't know where it, if it, I think it resides in the spirit and the soul. Certainly there's evidence of it in places in the body, but if you go looking for it there, you're not going to really find the whole thing. So that's one of the problems with modern medicine.
Mhm. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I think all the answers are there, but they're not.
Yeah, yeah, true. Tom, I just want to ask you this before I forget, okay? Because I know that if I started having people ask questions about meditation, the first thing they'd say is, "I tried doing it, but my mind doesn't get quiet, so I know it's not happening. So what's the sense of doing it?" What do you do about that?
Well, that's why I suggest the breathing.
Okay,
I suggest for some people, what they need to do is they need to not only still the mind, but to still their physical uh, anxiety, because people's anxiety has kind of a physical component to it.
Yeah.
There's a jitteriness throughout the body, although it's not visible for most people,
Yeah.
but it's there.
Yeah.
And to actually, you had a perfect example earlier. Take a walk in nature, and do some breathing there, and take a deeper breath, and
Yeah.
let nature support you in relaxing and going deeper within. So, that's another thing. That's one other way to address the problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
But the number
really,
one
go ahead.
is your desire to be at peace.
Yeah, I
So
know.
just say, like, I want to be at peace with myself, and most people do,
Hmm.
and just honor that. It's okay. What could I do next? Take your deep breaths.
And then see what comes. And that's really the inspiration, is that all of a sudden something comes to you, like it will to me. I'll sit down and start doing deep breaths, and all of a sudden I'll be inspired to go for a walk in nature. And I
Yeah.
feel like that was me connecting to that magic and getting out there and doing that. And then I feel so much better. So and really going for that walk in nature is meditation.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it is for me.
Yeah, it is. It
Yeah.
is for me too. So, all right. So, Tom, I want to talk to you about this because I know you have Tom has some excellent workshops coming up, and if you can take a class with Tom, take a class with Tom, because you won't believe how much you're going to learn. But Tom has okay. So I'm just going to read this. So Tom is an exceptionally gifted healer, very true, counselor and teacher, who has devoted much of his career to exploring ways of healing from the spiritual heart. And I know that that's a workshop that you have coming up with, at fellowships. But talk about, like, what does that mean, the spiritual heart? I love that.
Oh, good. That follows up on some of the things we've already been talking about. Um, Everywhere in spiritual literature, this whole thing, there's a lot of talk about the heart, a lot of talk about love, and all of those. But in order to get to the genuine essence of love, it's a um, visceral experience. Let me put it that way. It's not a mental notion. So often when we talk about love, it's like this mental idea,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and you think about what that, the visuals of what that means and so on and so forth. But the true expression of love is way beyond that. It's an essential, um, let's say, component, if you will, of of um, of the nature of God and the universe.
Hmm.
And our access to that component is
Hmm.
not in the head, it's not in our thinking, it's in our presence with what I call the spiritual heart, which is actually located in the physical heart.
Yeah.
So, in the workshop, we do practices to get people more comfortable with just being present with that and letting that speak to them in various ways, and also to let support their own healing, because it does. This ties into my notion of grace, which is tied into healing,
Yeah.
right? Um, and so, I had a useful. It was probably the best assignment I was ever given at divinity school. Was we were given a number of spiritual terms, and we had to pick 5 or 6 of them and actually work our own definition for them. Weren't going to copy from anything else. We're going to copy from any scripture or any other culture, etc. We had to go into our own experience. And what the definition I came up with for grace
I love
was
it.
that it's the power of love that renders all mistakes temporary.
Ooh, I
Yeah,
love that. I love that.
yeah.
Say that again, Tom.
Grace is the power of love that renders all mistakes temporary.
Ooh, I love that. Yeah.
So I certainly have seen it and experienced it personally, and most people in their own way have it to some degree. But this is what you see this described very, very eloquently in people's near-death experiences. where they come in contact with a being of awesome essential, with that essential quality of pure love, and they're able to be with everything they've ever done without judgment,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Everything gets clarified, everything gets recorrected so they can move ahead um, um, with a greater certainty, you know,
Yeah.
about their direction.
Yeah.
And it takes place in an instant. That's astonishing.
It's astonishing. Yeah. That it can
Yeah,
be that fast. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So I want to go back. Oh, okay. Karen put the quote up, and you have people saying that was brilliant. Yeah, I know what you mean, everybody. I love you. You can learn a lot by listening to Tom for sure. But so I'm going to ask you this: what will people get out of taking that workshop? Okay, the spiritual heart workshop.
Well, they get some significant experience at being present with their own spiritual heart and the power that that has, and the opportunities that it affords in both growth and inspiration, but also in their own healing, because it has been that way for me. Healing. There's um, I can remember when I was first involved with teaching metaphysical processes and all that. This was back in the early '80s. I traveled around the country doing it, and then I got a spiritual download that said, "This is not your work. Your work's about the heart." And I'm thinking, well, I'm having a great time doing what I'm doing. Why would I do that?
Why switch? Why switch? Yeah.
I, but I was at least sane enough to recognize, I need to honor whatever this is, and I need to begin to look into it and pursue it to some degree.
Yeah.
But I'm certainly glad I didn't dismiss it,
Yes.
because it's made a huge difference in my life,
Yeah.
to focus my awareness on that aspect of spiritual unfoldment and growth.
Well, because really it all kind of starts with the heart or the spiritual heart or love. And
Yeah,
that's the place that's going to really connect you to, the downloads or the magic or everything
yeah,
else we're talking about, right? So it's like they took you to the beginning.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's two, and there was also one bit of wisdom I had gotten somewhere along the way. Again, this happened in the early '80s. It was passed on to me by a friend of a friend, if you. So I didn't get the author of it, but I did know that the author was one of the Indian gurus who was traveling around in the country at the time. But anyway, it was these two things, that there's two important reasons for us being human and living in a human body,
Yeah.
experiencing the world as a human being. One is to learn how to love unconditionally in a body, and the second is to learn how to create responsibly.
Ooh, I love that. I love
It's
that.
profound, and it's been my if you will, steering mechanism for a very, very long time.
Yeah,
Since I heard it, it's like it 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 really encompasses everything.
it does. It
Yeah,
does.
because
It
you've
does.
got with creating responsibly is the entire law of karma,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then the most important thing is this, loving unconditionally. That is, understanding the depth of possibility of relationship when you're coming from the heart.
Yes. But Tom, what if, like, as I agree, we have to love unconditionally, but how do you love somebody unconditionally, say, that does something mean to you, or is it nice to you, or how do we love unconditionally? Even
Okay, so here's what it is,
yeah,
because that love does not look at or relate to the activities that are uncomfortable for us, or that are even injurious to us.
right.
It goes beyond to look at the core essence of that person, or to be present with it. And then also, what it also does is it gives you a perspective that allows you to simultaneously be safe. you can create safety for yourself while not being antagonistic to whatever the ugly behavior is of another that you don't particularly like.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
so it keeps you it allows you to accept who they are
Yeah.
without needing to destroy them.
Yeah. Yeah. Or
Right,
like you said, being antagonistic, because
right,
that makes them worse. That's
yeah.
almost like you're kind of pushing the buttons, and that makes the whole thing worse and takes you far away from love.
Well, and the other thing that it does, here's what is interesting. The other thing that it sort of does in a strange way is it actually encourages the bad behavior
Yeah. Yeah.
because you get locked into that frequency, you're supporting that frequency.
100%. Yeah.
So
100%.
just because you're his son. So when you're not locked into that frequency, when you're locked into the frequency of love, what it does is um it actually fundamentally supports the bad behavior to begin to kind of look more at the real truth of who they are.
Yeah.
It supports that.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
it may not be, yeah. You may not see the positive outcome of it immediately. It may take some time, but
yeah. Yeah.
it's not our job to force correction on people.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
um,
Even
but
though we think it is sometimes, right?
I know we
Yeah.
do. It's like
Yeah.
and that's one of the difficult parts of doing sometimes spiritual healing. I think is there's a tendency to want to fix rather than to just surround and infuse with healing energy, which is a
Mm,
very different process,
yes.
right?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah,
I love that. 'Cause even in a reading, that's what you want to do too, right? You don't want to tell them what to do or try to fix them. You want to plant seeds. And I love thinking of it that way, is put love all around them. I'm going to use that in my teaching. I love
yeah,
that. Hey,
yeah,
Tom, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Eliran. How do you do that with current dictators like Putin, for example? So how can we use that maybe unconditional love? Like how can
right.
I
So
think
you're not loving, you're not putting love, you're not loving Putin for what he's doing, obviously, right?
right, right,
And it's true for every one of these situations where you've got bad and malicious behavior
yeah,
going on with the person. What you're doing is you're attempting to connect to their essential nature or their spiritual nature in the connection, um, and as you do that, basically in terms of the healing, you're trying to amplify that. I did that and I do that during elections and that sort of thing. So I try to connect with that spiritual level of all the usually the two candidates,
yeah,
and then bring that down that both of them get more supported in doing the thing that's most advantageous for everybody. That's how I do it.
yeah,
I don't, here's the problem, that most of us face. We don't know the impact of that. It's very difficult to know that offhand, but they have done interesting studies about people meditating in groups and so on, and how it does change the consciousness in very measurable ways. That they found that when that was done in an area, and then they looked at the crime reports were diminished,
yeah,
right? That kind of thing. So
yeah,
we don't, yeah, that's one of the difficult parts of when you do this work. You don't always see an exact correlation between the consciousness energy, the spiritual energy you devote to something,
yeah,
and its outcome.
yeah.
Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't.
Yeah, sometimes you get like a little nudge. Like I can remember doing healing on my stepfather when he was in Florida and he was sick, and I had somebody that I was in Florida and I had somebody up in New York sending healing to him at the same time, and he kind of really wasn't a believer. He was going along with it because he didn't feel well, and when we got done with the healing, he described exactly what my friend looked like and the color shirt she had on, and she was in New York, you know.
That's
So we
beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah.
called her up
Yeah.
and I thought, wow, like
Yeah.
that was a nudge. Like you get those things that show you that this stuff is real. And that when you send energy or when you don't know what to do, sometimes like I think in the world or you know what in our lives, we what like you think I'm just one person, what can I do to make a difference? But we can, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, imagine the impact, of 1,000 people who are really good at this, who are really good at just getting into the pure energy, and offering that to Biden or Putin or Trump or anybody.
Anybody.
Um,
Yeah.
it's it. I believe it would ultimately have some significant impact. You know.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too. And if we can, every one of us can do that. All you have to do is start focusing on the breathing, go for a walk in nature, or meditate.
But here's the important caveat here: it can't be done to fix people.
Yeah. That's huge. That's huge.
Right? Because that then assumes that you're attacking the bad, but that's not what goes on in this
Ooh.
process,
Yeah.
right?
It's not the
You're
energy.
supporting the good.
Yeah.
Period. Yeah.
Yes. Because if you're fixing them, then you're kind of almost honing into that energy, the bad
Exactly.
that we don't
Exactly.
want to be part of, right?
Exactly. And that's the important caveat with this. It's like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Like, you and I were talking about this the other day too, that in the country we've gotten more focused on illness than we have on wholeness or wellness, you know. And we were talking about like that's kind of the same thing. Like let's
yep.
focus on wellness, and that's how we're going to change things there.
Exactly, exactly, yeah. And the real change in the world is not going to come from, a handful of billionaires in Davos. It's going to come from people who are really being open to that spiritual guidance, really ready for new inspiration and where the world really wants to go, and how the peoples of the world can be supported in living in harmony
Yeah.
with themselves, each other, and finally the planet.
Yeah. Yeah. And we all can do it. You know, again, I always hear people say, "What can I do? I'm not even going to read this stuff or pay attention to it. I'm one person. What can I do?" But never say that, okay? Because one
Yeah.
person doing this, you know, and then another person doing it, and another, or you do it, and then you're telling people about it, and they're saying, "What the heck? I might as well meditate." And then there you are, you know, forming a group consciousness and making a difference,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh yeah, it's so important, and like say, the journey begins. Oh, the longest journey begins with the one step. And as long as we know that, and um, I mean, the challenges we face are enormous. But I
Yeah.
also believe that the hidden talents we have are enormous.
Yeah.
It's time for that stuff to be awakened.
Yeah. And let it be awakened. And I always, I feel like I've been posting this on Facebook a lot lately. I'm always posting things, but about connecting to our own uniqueness and who we are. And I feel like that's our gifts and letting ourselves shine, every one of us.
Yeah. And then here's the next thing is I think we need to start thinking about this a whole lot more, is appreciating everywhere you see it, you appreciating the light that's being expressed by your fellow by humanity, your fellow human beings. I see it every day. I rejoice in it every day.
Mhm.
Literally, it's like you see a baby, and you see their the purity of their spirit and soul, the light coming through them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or the parent who's engaging with that energy, or the checkout clerk at the grocery store who's really kind and good to everybody, and there's something genuine about what they're doing, even though they know it's their job.
Yeah.
That is all. The job thing is irrelevant. It's the fact that that real human essence is being shared. The best of who they are is being shared with other people.
Yeah.
We've lost our connection with it. The technology has taken some of that away from us, but primarily the thing that's taken so much of that away is greed and our focus on money and our focus on you know economic issues and all that kind of stuff and class and
Yeah.
and it's been a huge shift in my lifetime. I
Yeah.
can remember as a young man that anybody who had a job, didn't matter what the job was, and put their 40 hours in, had significant respect for that.
Yeah.
You don't see that
No,
now,
you don't.
and that's sad. That's very sad to me.
Yeah, it is sad. I remember my nephew calling me up and saying, I don't want to go to conventional college. I want to go and I want to learn how to build cabinets. What do you think about that? Do you think?
I think it's fabulous.
So me too. And I
I
said
do too.
too, and he did that. So yeah,
And I think more. Yep, I think more people should be encouraged to do the trades
yeah,
because again, that engages with the physical world, and also it it lightens people's creative inspiration. People that want to create.
yeah,
You remember the two things we're here to create responsibly.
yeah,
I believe that everybody has this thing to want to create, to add something to life in some way,
yeah.
and we don't support that fully in our
No.
culture at all.
And that kind of like not supporting that, we need to, because that's like my nephew is an excellent woodworker. That is his gift,
Yeah, it's a wonderful
it's
thing.
uniqueness. He just built my sister a shelf. It's amazing. I want him to come to the Buffalo and build me one. He's so good at it. But you're right. If we could do that and support the differences, then we're supporting the uniqueness, and then people can be who they are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how important that is. Okay, hey Karen, Karen's on, everybody. I know a lot of you know Karen, but can you pull up Tom's class for fellowships? I'm looking at her to see if she's shaking her head. But I want you guys, because I think some of the stuff we're talking about here is some of what you're going to be teaching in that class. Correct, Tom?
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that class is Wednesday, May 11th. So pretty soon, everybody. And it's from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern time. And it's online live, but it's on Zoom. So you can take it. I saw somebody on here in Brazil. Sorry, I didn't say hi to you, but guess what? Even in Brazil, that's the beauty of Zoom. You can take this class. I love that, don't you, Tom?
The person from Brazil. I want to ask: is that person a spiritist?
In Brazil, let me see if I can find her. Are you a spiritist? Let me find her comment here.
I have
Uh,
a lot of spiritist friends. I love the spiritists.
Here we go. I'm going to pull her up right now. We'll see if I don't know if she's still on. Fatima. Hi, Sir Paulo.
Sao Paulo. Sao Paulo. Yep.
You say that, okay? Brazil here. Welcome. We're glad to hear you. But if you're here, yeah, do you practice? Are you a spiritist? Yeah.
Oh,
So,
great. Yeah,
yeah,
I love the work the spiritists are doing in the world. I just think it's wonderful.
yeah. I don't know much about that. What are they doing? They
Yeah.
just,
Well, they're coming from a great place. Basically, they come from, what I would call the Sacred Heart, like Jesus's notion of love, and there's a lot of, and their healing work is free, their mediumship, they're constantly working to I think, improve um, life in this world, and improve the life of their fellow human beings, which is, what a great spiritual mission.
amazing.
Yeah.
Actually, guess what, Tom? Fatima is still on. She said, "I love you too." So,
Oh, thank
yeah,
you. Yeah.
thank you so much. Yeah, and yeah, thanks for coming on. We love that you're here. So, Karen, pull that back up again Karen pulled up the class, and I asked you a different question. See, we get excited about what we're talking about, right, Tom?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so Tom, Awaken the Spiritual Heart, okay, with Tom Cratsley. It's Wednesday, May 11th, from 7 to 10 p.m. and it's on Zoom, so anybody can take it. And Tom, just I that's too small for me to read. So can you just give an overview of what the class
Well,
is?
basically, a lot of what we've been talking about is, there were going to be some exercises and practices to get um, comfortable with being present with the spiritual heart, and then engaging with other people. There'll be some opportunities to connect spiritual heart to spiritual heart and experience that. So yeah, yeah. So basically, that's what it's about. It's about getting more comfortable with being centered and present in the spiritual heart.
In love.
Which is, yeah,
And
and
in love.
love,
Yeah.
which is the anchor point of love, which is where it all manifests. So it's like, yeah, understanding love from that visceral physical place.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So if you want to change your life, or be more centered, or be more
yeah,
or be more connected to the magic that's there for every single one of us, this
yeah,
is an excellent course for you to take, because you're going to walk away with tools that are going to allow you to do that, right, Tom?
yep,
Yeah,
yeah,
and everything that we're talking about, which is, really to change your life. And we said this right from the beginning, is that you need to do it. Sometimes we think, and I've done it myself, where I need to change my life, or I want my life to be better. So I, do all these things outside of myself. And really it's going within, and doing it from within.
yeah, yeah. Well, there's a couple of, I want to mention some other things coming up too. Do we have time
Yes.
to do that? Yeah.
Oh, of course.
So,
Yeah.
because there's a few other classes coming up over the summer. Two of them for Lilydale. One is Healing Mastery, which is really kind of a survey of all the healing things that I've gone through, spiritual healing now, including techniques that my own guidance has given me over the years. And that's a week long intensive. Uh, but it's broken up, so there's like a 2-3 hour sessions in a day, so
Yeah.
that you have time for integration. So it's that's a to me, it's one of my favorite classes to teach.
And
And then
let me just throw something in about that, Tom, quick. So I've had back issues for the last year or so, and actually was in tremendous pain. And I happened to go down to Lilydale, and wasn't I lucky that I ran into Tom, who gave me an energy healing. Remember, Tom?
yes,
Yeah, and I have to say, I mean, to learn these techniques, and I've learned from Tom, and I've learned, energy healing, and it's amazing. And I could tell you story after story about how the techniques have helped others. But Tom, started kind of put his hands on my shoulders, and I could feel the healing right away. But then he told me, and you said you got this right from spirit. Remember that I needed to imagine that there was a balloon at the top of my head, kind of pulling me up and straightening me. And it was strange, because you said I didn't move, but I felt like I did, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So basically, and this is in reference to what we talked about earlier.
yeah,
It was a way of helping you align your own consciousness with the healing process,
yeah,
right? So, and support what was actually happening energetically.
yeah.
And when I believe this, that when people are truly engaged in their own healing, even if they're being helped by others, it just sort of amplifies the process enormously.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, very much. And that's what you're doing really when you learn energy healing,
yeah,
is you're healing somebody or healing yourself, but you're supporting them to connect to that part inside, like to realign themselves so they can heal, correct?
correct,
Yeah.
correct. Yeah,
Because I mean, I have to say that I felt like when I was done with that, I felt like I was a little taller. And for the first time, I mean, I went quite some time with my back pain dissipating. So it was amazing. So yeah. So when is that class, Tom?
that class is from the 10th to the 14th of July,
Okay.
and then I'm doing a 1 day
Is that in person? That one's in person?
Yeah, that's in person. Yeah,
In
that needs
person,
to be in
in
person
person in
because you'll have a
Lilydale.
chance to actually work in the healing temple
Oh, wow.
as a spiritual healer once you go through that class. So,
That's amazing.
you
Yeah.
know, then I didn't mention the oh yeah, the other one for Lilydale is is healing with elementals, and it's working with an elemental approach for healing, which deals with um, clearing toxins and parasites and all that kind of stuff from an elemental perspective. I can't teach the whole thing in a couple of minutes, but basically, it's recognizing that everything has some measure of consciousness associated with it, including toxins, including a person's liver, for instance. So, and it's developing the capacity to commune with, let's say, a person's liver. And if the liver's out of balance, you can understand why, and the liver will communicate its needs to you and energetically, and you can supply that in healing, that kind of thing. So that's a day long.
Yeah.
And then
That's which, by
yeah,
the way, everybody, I've learned that from Tom, and it's pretty darn amazing, and it works. It really, really does. Okay, go ahead.
yeah. And then the one Planetary Consciousness is coming up July 16th and 17th, and that's with the Fellowships of the Spirit. And that's something I feel really, we had talked a little bit about, bringing that spiritual energy in, and if we're aligned with that, it's helping to bring healing to the planet and to one another.
Right.
Well, that's this whole workshop is about getting to that place and learning how to experience what I call group spiritual consciousness. Every everything every I think conscious connection with another person is an opportunity for the spiritual aspect of the two people to be aligned and to provide the highest possible direction for the expression of that connection, right? All right. So this goes beyond that to a group. So any spiritual group that you have, you can tap into what I call the group soul essence, which has following this, this notion that the whole is greater than the sum of all its parts. Well, spiritually, this is even much more of a truth than it is in physical stuff. So when you connect with the group spirit, the power of that is amplified enormously. That power can be used in healing, in bringing about changes in even in the people who are parts of the group by being open to the possibilities that are present in the group spirit.
Amazing.
But then ultimately connecting to the soul of Mother Earth and working in harmony with her. And this was something that again, I had many downloads in the early 80s. So I had traveled around the country setting up planetary consciousness groups whose the sole purpose of which was to link to the earth and what some people call the planetary logos. The common term now that we call it Gaia, that but it's really the planetary logos, and that is one fantastic, incredible being, and we can learn how to be spiritually in much greater harmony and alignment with it. So
Wow.
that's a part of that workshop.
That sounds like an important workshop, and a workshop, like, say, that's going to connect us to some of the things that we were talking about before that are going to help us and help the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the intent of it. Anyway,
That sounds
and I have fun. I have fun with those, with all the work involved with that. And let's see, the last thing is the restructuring training, which I do every Columbus weekend. And restructuring is a counseling tool that I developed. Again, a lot of these things I've been doing for a long time. You can tell the picture that showed up before is a very old picture. So I've been doing these things for a long time. But anyway, it's really about getting to the root of internal conflict. So areas in your life where, despite your best effort, you find yourself repeating the same behavior, repeating the same thinking processes, etc., and wondering, why am I doing this to myself?
Yeah.
This is a methodology for getting back to the root of where that comes from, where that internal conflict comes from. There's a brief regression, and while the person's present with that memory of where it started, two things. It basically analyzes why and how that has propelled itself forward and why it stays stuck. But then while they're present with it, they make a whole new series of choices and decisions related to that experience, most of which are releasing statements, like releasing fear, anger, the emotions that were tied up with it, the mental conclusions that were tied up with it, and the physiological experience that was tied up to it too.
Mhm.
So it's a multi-dimensional process that deals with all those, and and also, of course, has a spiritual component.
Mhm.
So it's profound. It's really one of the most profound healing things that I do. To in a matter of an hour, you can help people go from a problem they have struggled with for many lifetimes, even,
Yeah.
and be done with it.
Yeah, it is so profound. And I can speak to that too, because I remember when I was starting my reading practice, and I felt so much like it was what I was meant to be doing, and I loved doing it. And I had such a fear of doing readings, and I couldn't get past it. And I got talking to you, Tom, and you did a restructuring for me, and we got to the root of it. And really, that was something I was going to quit doing readings. I wasn't going to do them anymore. And then after working with you and getting to the root and releasing it, here we are, 25 years later, and I do readings all the time. And it got me past it. It works. It's amazing.
Oh, that's interesting you tell that, because we probably wouldn't be having this conversation
Probably not. Probably not.
if
I
you'd
would have
gone in
gone in
another
a
direction.
different
Yeah.
direction. Yeah, probably. Tom, I would love to have you back on.
Okay. Yeah,
We can
sure.
set up a date after, because I'd love to have just a show. Let's talk about restructuring and how
Sure.
much you can help people and change their lives. And I'll have you back on. I want to talk more about the other classes too, but
Yep.
definitely with that as well. So, all right. So the next one coming up is Spiritual Heart. Okay. And that's Wednesday, May 11th. Okay. So really that's next week.
Yeah.
It's from 7 to 10 p.m. Eastern time, and it's online via Zoom. So you can watch it on Zoom, which is nice. It's nice to take a workshop, and you can have a nice shirt on and have your pajama bottoms on, really, right?
Yeah.
And to sign up for that class, okay, you can go to either Tom's website, which Karen's posting, and that's thomascratsley.com /calendar. Okay. Good. Thanks, Karen. Karen's got that right there. Okay. So you can actually just go, it's in the comments, and go there, and you can sign up for any of the workshops.
No, you can't sign up at the website. You're going to have to go to, let's say, for instance, you'll have to go to Fellowships of the Spirit to sign up.
Yeah.
It'll give you,
There's a link. I think I'm looking at Karen to see, but if they went, if they went on your website, there's right in the description, there's a link that will take.
Oh, they can do the link. Oh, great.
Yep.
Right. They do the
So
link.
you'll have the link right there. Or you can go on www.fellowshipsspirit. So it's 2s's.org. And Karen's got that posted there as well. And also in lilydaleassembly.net, also for the Lilydale courses. So, but see them all. If you go on Tom's website, you can see all the courses, and there are links that'll take you to Fellowships or Lilydale, so you can register. And I would encourage it. You'll learn so much. And Tom, I think all the courses you're teaching right now we need them, and the world needs them. Thank you.
Yeah, it does feel really important that that a great number of people find their spiritual truth. And from my experience in Lilydale and talking to people, I feel that one of the things that's happened with COVID is that people are reassessing their lives.
Yeah.
And hopefully many of them are recognizing that it's their spiritual component is fundamental and important to them, you know.
Yeah. Oh, I think so too. Very, very much.
Yeah.
I've seen so many people like wanting to take courses and really like connect to the spirituality and change their lives. That's
Yeah.
what we talked about in the beginning. Sometimes when something happens, we have to look, and it pushes us in a new direction and different possibilities for ourselves, our world, and our lives. So
Yeah.
yeah. Well, Tom, I loved this. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Yeah, I know everybody. I know that you love this conversation too. I'm going to have Tom back on really, really soon. Thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you, Tom. Thank you to Karen for kind of behind the scenes and pulling up all the stuff that neither one of us would know how to do. Yeah, yeah. And I hope you have a great day, and take a look, and definitely you don't want to miss Tom's workshops for sure. So have a great Sunday, everybody. Thank you for taking some time out of your day to join us.
And thank you from me as well.
Thanks, Tom.